Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something really complex, not just events, but a whole system.
That's right. We have these sources centered on Dr. Alistair Finch's work from, back in 2035. He mapped the opioid crisis over decades.
Right, as a system, with feedback loops.
Exactly. And that's the core conflict he found. You have these balancing loops, things trying to fix the problem, like treatment programs.
Like a destabilizer.
But then you have these reinforcing loops. Relentless forces, really, amplifying things like profit, addiction, and they eventually just took over.
One force trying to steady the ship, the other heating the accelerator downhill. So let's talk about that brief period where things seemed better. The sources call it the dream stage, late 2020s.
Yeah, the dream stage. What worked then was a real push on public awareness and policy action. It actually managed to cut down the stigma.
Which meant more people felt they could ask for help.
Precisely. And crucially, Alistair secured this, unprecedented funding that dramatically increased the available treatment capacity.
So people sought help, and help was actually there for them.
Yes, a balancing loop in action. The system found some equilibrium. Overdose deaths stopped climbing, even dipped a bit. It felt like real progress.
And for Alistair, this was personal too, right? He felt, was it cautious optimism? His son Leo entered treatment around that.
That's right. A moment of hope, both professionally and personally. But, complex systems, they don't stay stable easily.
What started pushing it back the other way? Into what the sources call the frustration stage.
Well, a couple of things. First, an external shock. A regional economic downturn that created this sort of quiet desperation.
Pushing people back towards self-medication, maybe.
Exactly. But the other factor, and this is where the system dynamics really flip, it was an unintended consequence of their earlier success.
So?
They got good at restricting legal prescriptions. But the underlying need, the demand, that didn't just vanish.
So it didn't solve the demand, it just shifted it.
It shifted it, big time, right towards the illicit market. And that move, that basically poured gasoline on the fire, leading to the nightmare stage.
Okay, let's break down that engine. The sources detail two really powerful reinforcing loops, R1 and R2.
Yeah, think of them working together, a destructive engine. R2 is illicit market growth. With demand shifting, the profit in illicit drugs just exploded.
What profit means?
Means more investment, better organization, sophisticated, often transnational supply chains pumping out more product. So, R2, profit fuels availability.
Okay, profit driving supply. How does R1 fit in? Addiction fuels availability.
Well, R2 boosts availability, right? More drugs, easily available. That inevitably means more people get addicted or existing addictions deepen.
Bigger user base.
A much bigger user base. And that bigger base creates an even larger, more reliable market, which of course makes the whole thing even more profitable.
Feeding right back into R2.
Exactly. R1 feeds R2, R2 feeds R1. It becomes this vicious cycle, spinning faster and faster, brutally self-perpetuating.
And this is where the speed of the disaster really picks up, isn't it? Because the profit was so high. Innovation happened, but the deadly kind.
Tragically, yes. The suppliers introduced new synthetic analogs, cheaper to make, incredibly potent, often deadly.
So the death rate just skyrockets,
Yeah.
wiping out those earlier games.
Completely overwhelmed them. And things like naloxone, the overdose reversal drug, less effective against these new synthetics. The death toll climbed with horrifying velocity.
And the public response.
Compassion fatigue set in. People were exhausted, maybe felt hopeless seeing the scale of it. That critical funding, the balancing loop, it started to dry up.
Which brings us back to Alistair. His own story tragically mirrored his model's findings.
It did. His son, Leo. He'd been sober for 3 years, but he relapsed. And he was lost to one of those incredibly potent batches. Alistair mapped the system's breakdown but couldn't stop it, not even for his own son.
So the lesson Alistair learned, the hard way,
was that the reinforcing loops driven by economic despair and, frankly, the sheer power of the profit motive were just stronger. Stronger than the balancing forces of public funding and awareness campaigns he'd championed. His model wasn't just analysis. It turned out to be a prophecy.
So for you listening, the sources leave us here. The sirens keep wailing.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder of systemic inertia.
Yeah, it makes you ask, doesn't it? How much external force, policy, money, awareness does it actually take to counteract these deeply embedded reinforcing loops of profit and desperation?
What kinds of public health battles are truly winnable when you're up against that kind of momentum? Something to think about.